the audience, whoever it is, black, white, or whatever, they listen to people who know nothing about what they're talking about, but they look like they do. They put on glasses or they look like they're teachers, and they make these statements that are far-fetched. And then the audience, the people that are participating, thank them for teaching them something. It's really frightening.
And yet here you are, the daughter of the voice of Brer Bear, the daughter of, well, you're as we've said before in this video, you're so important because you're one of the only people that we can turn to find out these true stories, because Hattie McDaniel and James Baskett didn't have children. Yeah. Mr. Nick Stewart did, and you're the child who we have on with us right now that we can talk to and find out what was the real deal, what really happened.
He mentions on his interview for the Academy, the TV Academy, that he felt that James Baskett died of a broken heart. That's what he felt, and he did say that. He also.
Why did he feel that he died of a broken heart? You are about to listen to one of the most meaningful interviews and videos that I think that I will ever produce. Join us as we take a journey back into time, back into the golden era of Hollywood, examining the lives and the legacies of the trailblazing pioneers, the African American or black, if you will, celebrities who did everything in their power to get onto the small screen and the big screen, to bring better values into the world. And we're going to examine how their legacies are being lost, but how at the same time, there's no way that the truth will not win out. You're in for an absolute joy of an interview with Valarie Stewart, daughter of Nick Stewart, who was the voice actor behind Brer Bear. As Splash Mountain is now closing at Walt Disney World and gone at Disneyland, get ready, because you don't know the person who was the voice of Brer Bear. And you're about to find out that he is so much more than an old cartoon bear, and his legacy will live on. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are here to explain entertainment and keep you ahead of the culture curve. And today we are doing just that with one of the most important persons that I can think of to have on the channel. We are so blessed and so happy to have Miss Valarie Stewart on with us today to share with all of you information about her father's legacy, her thoughts on all of these issues that have become quite divisive in our society in relationship to Song of the South, Splash Mountain, and all of the concerns that various people have about some of the older Hollywood properties and how they may have presented various people groups. So, Ms. Stewart, it is such a pleasure, and like I said, in fact, a blessing to have you on with us. We'll talk more about why you are so important. Before I introduce you fully, though, I do want to let everybody know that while you are driving, it's hands-free, and so you are being safe, and we've been careful to make sure that is of the utmost concern. We don't want to do anything that would put you in a bad position, but we're just having a phone call while you're out and about. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, the first part of the phone call, I'll be out and about, and then I'll be inside in a few minutes. I have on earphones. The camera is on the dashboard, and I have both hands on the wheel.
That's right, both hands, 10 and 2, and right?
Headphones. One-sided headphones for the traffic.
Well, Ms. Stewart, would you start by telling our audience who you are?
Yeah, I'm Valarie Stewart. I'm the daughter of Nick Stewart, who played the part, he's the voice of Brer Bear in Splash Mountain at Disneyland and in the movie Song of the South.
Excellent. And your father is famous for more than just that, but certainly him having that role as Brer Bear is a huge accomplishment, but I'm not sure that people understand just what an accomplishment it was given the time period in which he did that and the difficulties that many people of particular backgrounds had in being able to find their place on the big screen. It was not easy for people of African descent, people who might be called African Americans or black or whatever you would like. The terminologies have changed since the 40s. I was listening to an interview with your father earlier today, and I was struck by how much language has changed since even the 1960s. But could you tell us more about your father and the other things that he also did beyond just playing Brer Bear?
Okay, number one, having to do with Song of the South, it was said that the NAACP picketed Song of the South, and I guess I'm off topic for a minute, but
I think you get to do that. You're such an important guest. You can go wherever you wish with the conversation.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that my father received a Lifetime Achievement Award from the NAACP, the Hollywood Beverly Hills branch of the NAACP, gave him an award for positive portrayals of African Americans.
Excellent. Now, your father also had other roles beyond Brer Bear. Can you talk about those other parts of his career in Hollywood?
Yeah, he played Rama, Willy Willy and Rama of the Jungle. He was on radio with, I think it was Duffy's Tavern and the Rudy Valley Show. He was on many radio shows. In fact, the radio enthusiasts made him an honorary member, Spurtvac, because he was a pioneer in radio. He was a pioneer in vaudeville. I have here, he was represented by this is something interesting I just found recently. Both he and Hattie McDaniel were on the same page in the what do you call it? The Screen Actors Guild, I think. The very first Players directory.
Wow.
Both of them. And they, at that time, they had different sections, and the Black people were in a section called Negro. The Asian people were in a section called Oriental, I think.
Okay.
And everybody else, like women, men, and children. So they were separated that way by color.
Now, you bring up something that I would like the audience to know, because we just need to say why it is that you are so important and just a connection point to history that we are so grateful to have on the channel. The reason for that is because of the three individuals who are part of Song of the South, James Baskett, Hattie McDaniel, and your father, Nick Stewart, it's my understanding, and I may be wrong, and if I am, I'll clarify that in the description below, or if anybody knows otherwise, please share that with me. But it's my understanding that neither James Baskett or Hattie McDaniel had children. And
I think you're right.
And then Nick Stewart, who played Brer Bear, as we've said, is your father. And then you have one other living sibling. But you are truly the connection point to an era of Hollywood that so many of us want to know more about. But to have that authenticity, to hear it from somebody who has been right there listening and has the stories directly from the source, you're it on this little blue marble we call Earth. And that makes you really, really important to all of us. So could you share with us how it is that your father became Brer Bear? What was the process in which he was discovered?
Telling what he did. They were in vaudeville. He was in vaudeville with, he was a partner of Milton Berle, believe it or not. They worked on stage together. He worked with George Burns, Gracie Allen. He used to, I read on a newspaper article, an old one, that he had comedy routine where I think it was the fan dancer Sally Rand would go on stage, and soon after, my dad would go on the vaudeville stage with, I think, feather dusters and mimic her, and did a comedy dance with these feather dusters, and was, she was a vaudeville, a burlesque kind of.
Sure. So he parodied that then.
Yeah, he did that. So he just did a lot. He did a lot. He was in Mad World. I don't know.
I see.
I sent that over. He also, what was so important about what he did, Disney is claiming to be inclusive. Long before that happened, and I want to say this, that the people at Disney have information that they're not sharing with the public, such as related to Song of the South. It was a press release, and it's I think it was my father's obituary. Did I send that over with Roy Disney's statement about my dad?
Yes, I've seen that, and the warmness, the friendliness, and the care that they took to describe your father and his relationship with the company.
Yeah, well, my father in the 1930s was what my dad used to say was a camp director, but he was their talent manager, and he brought in both black and white entertainers to entertain in the Catskill Mountains. So they didn't just invent inclusivity now. In fact, it was more inclusive then because they didn't call it anything. They didn't label it. And it seems that what they're calling inclusive now, and I hope I'm not off topic, but as far as I'm concerned, what they're calling inclusive now is it's separatist. The entertainers weren't like that then. They were. My dad.
So that I understand, Valarie, real quick, Miss Stewart.
Valerie's fine, please. It's fine.
Well, I also want to be respectful, though.
No, please call. I'm in California. Call me Valarie. It's
Can I still say yes, ma'am, Valarie?
You can say yes, ma'am, Valarie.
Yes, ma'am, Valarie. So my question then is, can we clarify? Your father was a talent manager for whom in the 1930s?
It was the ninth. I don't remember. It's in the obituary. Sorry if I seem flaky, but I'm driving.
Okay.
Yeah, for Rock Hill or something. It was a I don't know. What do you call it, a lodge? I don't know.
Oh, okay. I understand.
But
so
it was a resort, I think. And
you had mentioned before the interview that Mr. Walt Disney himself had selected your father to play the role of Brer Bear. Can you tell the audience a little bit about that?
All that I know about that is that he was in vaudeville and he was a good actor. That's the other thing that people need to realize, that there's some criticism about white and black and who's supposed to have done whatever and what color they were. Walt Disney trusted my father. He trusted James Baskett to self-direct, and all this criticism about Negro dialect and how they sounded and that it was offensive. These people, my dad and James Baskett, no one directed them and told them how to talk. They weren't influenced by that.
Do you know if they were attempting to accurately portray the accent of the Deep South and of the African Americans who lived there?
No, for any person in the Deep South, it sounded the same way: black, white, green, or purple.
I see.
They were human beings, and they had Southern accents, and whoever was in the South, if they spoke that way, that's the way they all spoke.
Hmm. Now, I want to get into Song of the South, and I want to get into how Disney has handled that property and all of that sort of thing. But I am interested also in your father and James Baskett and Hattie McDaniel and the personal knowledge that you have that leaves when you're no longer with us, and therefore we hope you stay around for as long as absolutely possible. But I'm curious, your father is known for being quite the comedian on stage and on screen. Was he the
Yes.
same at home?
No.
What was your father like in his as a father to you? How would you describe him?
He was a good father. He was brought up by people from Barbados. My grandparents were immigrants from Barbados. My grandmother was 17 years older than my grandfather. You were asking me how he behaved. His mother had him put in what do you call it? Reform school because he sneaked on. What did they have then? I guess they had trolleys.
Right,
He sneaked on a trolley, so he was in this reform school, and the stories of Horatio Alger influenced him. He also said, and I have it on my petition, he said that he listened to the Brer Rabbit stories, the Uncle Remus stories as a child too. So those kinds of stories, which were fables, which were universal, were the kinds of things that he got from. Oh, that's the other thing. He went to maybe the 6th grade or 5th grade, and that's all the schooling he had.
I see. Now,
But as a father, he used to read to us every night. He read stories to us, and that's probably one of the. He would read. I think it was Chicken Little. He would read The Little Engine That Could, and that stuck with me. That's why I'm so. I stick with what I'm doing now. He encouraged us to be independent. He was a good father.
and it seems to me that what you're trying to do is to save your good father's legacy,
Yeah.
the good that he did in this world that's now obscured by the actions of people who think that they're on the right side of history, that they're fighting for full inclusivity. And at the same time, your father, who is a pioneering, trailblazing hero for all peoples, because he made it. I mean, he did it. He got onto the screen at a time when it was so hard to do so. We're losing his works because of the actions of those who think they're in the right.
Yeah, well, they're not in the right, and they don't know what they're doing. And they, I was going to encourage people to go on the internet and look at any website that has logical fallacies and logic in it, and then to think for themselves. It seems that right now a lot of people are not reasoning anymore. They listen to what somebody else has said. They don't think for themselves, and then they repeat whatever they've heard. And they don't. It's not right. I've learned to, when I hear something or somebody tells me something, I look it up. I don't just react. There's so much anger right now among the people who want the song of the, I'm sorry, Splash Mountain versus the Tiana ride. And that shouldn't exist. There's enough room for the old and the new. History is important. It's as important as the present. It really is. And people don't know that. And I'm off topic.
Well, no, I think you're more on topic than my question would have typically allowed. So I appreciate that. It seems to me that there's a false dichotomy being presented, and that false dichotomy is that, well, it's been created by Disney itself, because
Right.
when you replace one thing with another, despite the fact that you have all the funds and all the area that you need to have both of them, then you unnecessarily pit one group against each other. And this
that's
idea that
what's
they had to
happening
put,
now.
yeah, they put Tiana, the Tiana's Bayou Adventure, which is inauthentically Louisiana. I mean, Louisiana is one of the flattest states in the country. It in no way is well represented by an attraction that is a flume ride with a 5-story drop. So it's already inauthentic, but when you force that character and that intellectual property over the top of something that is deeply significant, and we'll talk more about why it's so deeply significant, but I think then that creates animosity between groups that would not exist
That's what's
otherwise.
happening. No Black people could be happy during the Civil War. During the Reconstruction. I was talking about the Black people that were elected officials. How did they get to be elected officials if it was so miserable?
Right, and the idea that anybody would not be ever happy or joyful, I think is, well, that would be a horrific life, and so I hope that that's not true.
Yeah, the other thing is that's an indictment. They're saying that all white people are mean and horrible in order for that to be true. Every white person would have to beat people and try to kill them if that was a true statement.
Well, I think it's intended to judge the book by its cover, right? That's
right.
The goal is to see someone and instantly make judgments about the person prior to you finding out the character that's inside.
Yeah, everybody's different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if you want to go ahead and get set up.
I'm going to walk in the house.
Sure.
Right now. I'm going to let her know I'm outside so they can help, because I've got notes and stuff.
Absolutely.
I hope I wasn't
take your
too
time.
off topic, because I was driving. Usually when I talk, I have to jot down my notes so I stay on track. I kind of float all over the place.
Valarie, I think that people want to hear from you, and I think that whatever you want to say is totally acceptable, and we will be happy to go in whatever direction you feel is best. So don't you ever worry about that.
I feel that I'd like to make people stop, because they're all fighting each other. Everybody wants to fight somebody. Everybody thinks that this race or that race or this are different. We're all human beings, and that's the way I was raised. I wasn't raised with all this acrimony and hating and this person's white and that person's black and this person's this and that. I wasn't raised that way, and people are tending to do that now, and it's senseless and harmful. Yeah, it is. Anyway, I'm gonna go in, so I'm outside now.
Okay.
So I'll just hang up for a minute and come back if it's okay.
That'll be perfect.
Thank you.
All right, and Valarie, I see that you have now arrived at your daughter's house, and I can see that your father is up on the wall behind you in that beautiful picture, along with your mother. Fantastic. So one of the things that I'm so excited about this conversation, you were just talking with us about how the world seems a little mean and how people are not necessarily interested in facts. They jump to conclusions and they just believe anything. And we were talking about how you would like to see that decreased in the world. And so I think that you actually are somebody who can do that. There are not many people, in my opinion, who can lower the temperature, but I don't see how people, when they listen to you about your father's legacy and about the goodness of your father and the goodness of your mother, I don't see how that they can continue to take joy in seeing Song of the South hated. I don't see how they can take joy in seeing Splash Mountain destroyed and replaced. I don't find much joy in that when I talk to someone like you, whose father put so much of his life, so much of his legacy into creating this. And so I'm just curious, how does it make you feel when you see people even rejoicing that that Song of the South isn't watched, and rejoicing that Splash Mountain is being removed?
How do I feel? I'm going to be at peace no matter what happens, but I don't like it. It doesn't make any sense to me because they're not telling the truth. If there was some logical reason why they should make up stories about, let's say Zip-a-dee-Doo-Dah as an example, and then try to see the lyrics, listen to the song, see who's singing it, and then end up saying it's Zip Coon. That's thoughtless.
Well, one of the most unfortunate things about all of this, I feel, is that Zip-a-dee-Doo-Dah was, well, that won an award, and it was one of the first Academy, well, it was the first Academy Award given to a song performed by an African American, I believe. Is that correct?
I heard that didn't just Baskett get an award for his acting, or was it for his singing?
You know, it's funny as I'm listening.
My daughter's got a comment.
When I was a kid, they didn't refer to people as African American. They were actually referred to as Black or Negro. And
Yes.
I find myself thinking that if we're talking about those actors from back then, it's probably more accurate to refer to them as Black, since this country has tended to label people, even though race is a social structure, it's really not real.
I agree.
Well, so your mother and I were talking earlier about, I was listening to the interview with your grandfather, with Mr. Nick Stewart, an interview from 1965. And it was so interesting to me to listen to that interview and some of the terminologies that were being used in it, and
Right.
the abrasive nature in which the people discuss things. And it was
Joe
very foreign to me now.
Right. I listened to that. I've listened to it before. That is my grandfather. You're correct.
And he was quite adept at those answers as well. I mean, it was something. And by the way, the link to that interview will be in the description below. So everybody go click on that and check it out for sure.
Yeah. It's amazing that he actually thought that he would never buy toothpaste if someone that was Black suggested that he use it.
Well, so let me ask you this. Back to Zip-a-dee-Doo-Dah. You know, one of the most impressive things that I have ever listened to is Ray Charles performing Zip-a-dee-Doo-Dah. When do you think that this flipped? When do you think it became a song that, as Disney now officially has said, this came out of Disneyland, that it's irrelevant? When did this happen?
That Longworth, what's her name? Karina or something, Longworth, with that 6 degrees of Song of the South. People believe that she's an expert when, as far as I'm concerned, that Christian, the guy that runs songofthesouth.net, is the real expert, not her. She doesn't know what she's talking about. I don't know what they get out of it, but I've noticed that I've looked at some of the YouTubes, and in those YouTubes that I've looked at, when the audience, whoever it is, Black, white, or whatever, they listen to people who know nothing about what they're talking about, but they look like they do. They put on glasses or they look like they're teachers, and they make these statements that are far-fetched. And then the audience, the people that are participating, thank them for teaching them something. It's really frightening.
And yet here you are, the daughter of the voice of Brer Bear, the daughter of, well, you're, as we've said before in this video, you're so important because you're one of the only people that we can turn to find out these true stories, because Hattie McDaniel and James Baskett didn't have children.
Yeah.
Mr. Nick Stewart did, and you're the child who we have on with us right now that we can talk to and find out what was the real deal, what really happened. Could you take us back and did your dad have any stories that he told about his times with James Baskett and Hattie McDaniel and others who were trailblazing pioneers at the time?
No stories, no. He mentions on his interview for the Academy, the TV Academy, that he felt that James Baskett died of a broken heart. That's what he felt, and he did say that. He
And
also,
why did he feel that he died of a broken heart?
because of what the NAACP was doing, they were picketing it. And incidentally, I don't know if you know, people are saying things like, what's his name? Way Down South. Did I mention that to you?
You have not.
Okay, the movie Way Down South was made by Langston Hughes and what's the other guy's name? The one that Disney, the black guy that Disney thought was going to be Uncle Remus. What's his name?
Well, you have me stumped on this one.
He hired the black guy to help him with Song of the South, and he quit. It'll come back to me.
Oh, I do remember that story. I don't remember the name.
Yeah, well, they wrote a movie called Way Down South, and in that movie, there were happy. It was during slavery, and it's a story of slaves. The slave owner died, and this other person came in and was going to sell all the slaves, and then the son loved the slaves. They were his friends, and he tried to save their lives. And the NAACP didn't like that movie. That was the first movie that they said had happy slaves because it showed decent white people.
I see.
And at that time, Walter White was the president of the NAACP. I don't know if you've seen pictures of him, but he was blonde hair and blue eyes, and he could go anywhere he wanted to go because he didn't look black. And he did not like Hattie McDaniel.
So do you feel then that this has been a continuation, that ever since Song of the South debuted, that there has been there's been a group in society that has disliked the messaging from it?
It looks like it. What
do you think is so negative from that movie that they dislike?
They didn't want to see anybody like Hattie McDaniel anymore. She was plump. She was dark. They wanted a Lena Horne type.
And so they didn't like that. I believe that Song of the South was actually a very successful movie in its box office run. Is that correct?
I think so. I don't know. I never looked at that, but I assume so.
I think it was.
Yeah, people love it. And I don't, people wanted to interview me when I first started connecting with people that were part of the Save Splash Mountain group. And I wouldn't interview because I didn't understand why the movie was hated. I didn't even know that it was hated like that.
Right.
No knowledge of that. And
it's not the sort of thing that you would think would be hated. I mean, it's not. It doesn't.
There's nothing in there to hate except for those that are ashamed of themselves for whatever reason, and just like hating Aunt Jemima or Uncle Ben's rice or cream of wheat. This doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me that people are trying to hide history. And
what was your dad's thought? What did your dad think of the movie? Was he proud of the movie? Was he happy with it?
Yeah, he said in that interview, and it's on. I could find it now. There's a link to it. He said that Walt Disney treated them like kings. That's what he said.
I see. And throughout your father's life, how did he respond when people were negative about the movie?
They weren't negative.
Right, because this really did ramp up. Whatever this is, they were actually, the movie was sold and it was available up until either the late 80s or the early 90s, and perhaps farther than that. But it had to have been acceptable because Splash Mountain was built in that same time frame at both of the Disneyland and Walt Disney World Resort. And
Yeah,
your
but
father actually came back to do
he came back.
to
They
make that
asked him to
role.
come back and do the part of Bear Bear again. Yeah, and in fact, I think I sent it. You saw the Disneyland interview.
I did.
Yeah, well, he felt like he was part of the Disney family. Did you see that? And he was happy. He was
Well,
glad.
in my mind, he still is, and he should be. He's
Yeah, well, they were glad to get jobs. There were no jobs for Black people. The only
Right.
other jobs, like Hattie McDaniel said, she said that what was it, that she'd rather get, what was it, however much she made as an actress playing a maid rather than being a maid, which was what her other choice was.
So that's a fantastic quote, and everybody should pay close attention to that.
Yeah, they didn't have jobs for Black people. All these people imagining that it was just hunky-dory and they could just do what they want and go where they wanted. No, they could not.
It feels to me as if we look back with the current year's standards, and that when we apply whatever standard is apropos to the current generation, that then the content from the past falls short of whatever that new standard is. And that's fine. If you want to have a new standard, a new outlook on life, then so be it. The problem is that when people who made historical strides towards representation, towards equality, and towards seeing society as it is, when those people are no longer seen on screens, when they're no longer discussed because they were part of something that doesn't match up to today's standards, then I feel that's just not acceptable to me, because your father, James Baskett, Hattie McDaniel, they should be household names even today. They should be people that we remember for the heroic strides that they took.
That's right.
We wouldn't live in the world that we do in the positive ways that the world moved forward without people like your dad.
Yeah, well, my father said that they, and not just the movie, but in vaudeville, they were the ones that broke the segregation barrier in the South, the entertainers. That's how he felt about it. Go ahead.
I think about back in the 80s, for example, when people were enthralled with Michael Jordan playing basketball. And I just think about what a thing that did for society, because you had people of all races rooting for Michael, rooting for MJ, right? Everywhere he went. I remember seeing a video of him going to France, and he's just overwhelmed with people, so excited. They don't know what basketball is, but they know that he's an amazing athlete and they want to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to me that when you have people, whether it's superstar athletes or whether it's superstars on the big screen, the small screen, what have you, it seems to me that there's a connection point there that dissolves hatred. Because for the person who is not introduced to anybody of another race, when that person comes into their household through the television or through a movie, then I think that's a very positive thing, outside of some extreme examples where they're only there to mock or belittle. But I think what your dad did, and I think what James Baskett and Hattie McDaniel did, I think is just marvelous. I think it's, are they part of perfect works of art? Probably not. And in generations to come, perhaps we will not be either. But I'm so grateful for your dad and grateful for people like him who, my gosh, there were not that many people who could be that successful. Can you walk us through the Ebony Showcase Theater, which was another passion of your dad?
Okay, did I send you the concerts?
Yes, you did.
Did I send you the comedy show?
I don't remember if I have the comedy show, but I know that the audience would love to hear about the Ebony Showcase Theater and your thoughts on it, and why it was such a major part of your father's life, what it was about that made him so excited.
Okay, my father felt he took the money that he earned, and it's in the interview with the Television Academy. He took the money that he earned to build a theater to stop the typecasting of Black people. And he did quality shows most of the time. He did shows some of the time, not all the time, but he did shows that were previously all white shows, and he got permission to do them. He did Detective Story, Three Men on a Horse. He did 7-Year Itch. Tom Ewell helped him to do the 7-Year Itch. You know, Tom Ewell was in it with Marilyn Monroe.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some pictures on the website that I'm trying to, I'm working on.
We'll definitely have the link for everybody so that they can go check all of that out.
Yeah,
They'll be able to just click right below the video. So
yeah, some of the stuff I'm doing is, wait a minute, hold on. Some of the stuff I'm doing, I'm redoing because I do the web pages myself. I code them myself, and I don't use any templates or anything, and I don't use any builders. It's all HTML, so it kind of looks kind of old-fashioned what I do. But anyway, that's what I do. Let me see this.
Gotcha. So while you're looking that up, is it fair to say that what your father was doing then is he was sometimes, although not always, sometimes taking roles which were not the perfect role? Perhaps they did not portray Black people in the way that he would have most liked, but at the same time, he took then the money that he earned off of some of those roles, and not all again, and put it back into making the world a better place.
That's what he did. Definitely. That's what he did. So the Lost in the Stars, I don't know if you clicked on it or not, but if you look at it, you'll see that there are people that became famous later. And that's one of the things he did. He had a lot of people on stage at the Ebony who later became famous.
Right. And so people may not know that in the audience. They may be, they come to this discussion thinking they're going to hear about somebody who's kind of a silly character actor, just playing the part of a cartoon bear. And there's so much more to your dad than just that.
I'm trying to think. William Shallert became the head of the Screen Actors Guild. But in the beginning of his career, he worked at the Ebony Showcase. What's his name? I don't know. Boris Segal was the director of Shogun.
Mm-hmm.
He was was he from Russia or Ukraine or somewhere like that? He was, I thought I was using my phone. It's my daughter's phone. Boris Segal was the director of Lost in the Stars. He did, oh my God, my mind doesn't always connect.
That's okay. Tell us a little bit about your mom. We've been talking about your dad so much, but it's clear in talking with you before and in messaging that you had two wonderful parents. Can you tell us about your mom a little bit?
Yeah, we had that's the other thing that makes me want to talk about the theater. My parents were able to, because of their success with the theater, were able to, that's the other thing, we're a nonprofit, but most of the time we never asked for help because of the quality of the plays that they did. My mom was very helpful. We had a little restaurant at the theater, and I send I think I did the high-rise video with Asher and Simpson.
I think so. I think I do have that. Yes.
Yeah. Well, there's this cameo of my father in there smiling, but that was kind of my mother's spot. It was a little part of the theater. It was the theater that seated 299, and then the restaurant. I don't know what it seated, under 100. We had a little restaurant and bar, and we had entertainment in there too.
Did your mother oversee the dining part of the business?
All of it.
She was quite the entrepreneur then, I take it.
Yeah, they worked together very well. And I know that she used to, when I was born, she would go out into the audience and watch him with his entertainment. He had a tap dancing comedy act where he would dance real slow and act real slow, and he would end up doing steps and dancing fast. And she would leave me with, oh God, my mind. Whew. Anyway, Ella Fitzgerald would babysit me in the.
Well, that's quite the name to forget for a moment, I would say.
I forget everything. It's really crazy. It's really crazy.
I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting a name drop such as that for watching you.
No, I just do that. I do that.
It's okay.
I don't know. I was
Is
born
it fair to say that your dad was the creative side of it and your mom had more of a business sense to her? Is that fair, or did they share in both of those qualities?
They shared. They worked together.
What's one of your favorite memories of both of your parents?
That's a good question.
What puts a smile on your face today when you think back?
I just miss them. I wish they were here to take part of this. They were fighters. They were did all this by themselves. They didn't get grants or anything. They worked hard. I just know that they would. There's a picture. My dad's favorite picture was a picture. I think it's in one of the program books I sent you, of this big, huge room and a big vat of paint. My mom in a painter's hat painting. They put every seat into an empty theater. Every single seat themselves with help of their friends. They worked hard. They were hardworking people with a work ethic.
And they're very much worth remembering, and they're very much worth knowing about. Can you tell me?
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No. Did you have a thought on that?
Mm-hmm.
When your dad was brought back to reprise his role as Brer Bear for Splash Mountain, do you recall what his thoughts were at that time? Do you recall if he was excited to return to it? Do you recall if it was just another day, another job?
I think that the Disneyland interview, there's a quote there. He was glad to be back. There's a quote there. I don't know what the quote is, and I don't have it in front of me. But he was glad to be back. He was glad to do that. Yeah, he was very happy to do that.
I'm trying to think back. Now, your dad, he's one of the absolute first black voice actors to really make it in Hollywood. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's really something to me that he's one of the absolute first, and he should be a household name to anybody who's interested in voice acting. But his voice has been heard by millions and millions and millions as guests go on to Splash Mountain every single year for the last decades.
Yes, that's right.
That's one of the reasons that I just feel so badly about what's happening. You know, yesterday the ride at Walt Disney World closed forever, and Disneyland will be closing. What do you think will be lost when there is no more Splash Mountain in North America? And let me say, too, before you answer that, Splash Mountain will continue to exist in Japan. But what a thing it is that the Japanese have recognized the merit of the attraction, and we over here in North America apparently have not. But what will be lost in
I
your
think
opinion, when the attraction leaves?
I don't think the people in North America don't like it. That petition, Erica's petition, had 92,000 signatures on December 1st, 2nd, 3rd, whenever they announced the retheme. And I just looked at it today. It's up to 98,000.
Right.
So I think the majority of people, that's the thing. Disney is paying attention to 22,000 people and ignoring the 97,000, 98,000 people that want the ride. And I wouldn't be surprised to see it grow and grow and grow because people are finding out. I think most people don't even know that this is happening. A lot of people aren't on the internet.
I would tell the leadership at Disney to look at the millions of people, not tens of thousands, but the millions of people who came off of that ride in a more joyous place.
That's right.
Because of their experience, because of the laughing place, because of the mythology of throwing the rabbit into the briar patch and not recognizing that little rabbit knows how to handle himself in tough places. That's the mythology behind it. That's the moral of the story, is that he knows how to handle himself in a thorny place, and they don't know that.
The other thing is that people don't realize that we're all humans. This racism, where you have to say what color somebody is in order to smile or not to smile, it's ridiculous. People, that's the other thing. People want to say if they talk to me, they want to talk to Black people and see how Black people feel. Well, they don't all feel the same. They're just like any other race of people. Everybody doesn't agree on everything. But
Right,
this
we're not
feeling that all
monolithic.
Black people, you've got to interview Black people to know how a human thinks. It doesn't make sense to me. I found something.
What do you have?
Okay, this I found is a Xerox, old copy. I was looking through papers.
Uh-huh.
And it's a leaflet, a flyer, and it says, Nicodemus, Harlem named him, Hollywood claimed him. Versatile comedian of stage, screen, and radio, now under the exclusive banner of General Artists Corporation. RKA Thomas G. Rockwell, President, RKO Building, Rockefeller Center, New York. Wow. It says, of course you remember Nicodemus in such as outstanding films as Colonel Leffingham's Raid, Meanest Man in the World, Heavenly Body, Cabin in the Sky, Dakota, Night Train to Memphis, Gildersleeve's Ghost, I Love a Band Leader, Down to Earth, Perfect Marriage, and Follow the Boys. And for his never to be forgotten voice, interpretation of Brother, I'm Just Gonna Knock Your Head Clean Off Bear in Disney's Song of the South. Or you have heard him on the radio with Rudy Valley, Eddie Cantor, and Frank Morgan, and many others. Appeared in Irving Berlin and Buddy DeSilva's Louisiana Purchase on Broadway. And then it has quotes. Among the good things in Louisiana Purchase is Nicodemus. That was Walter Winchell. Low Estate, New York. Nicodemus, with a natural, easy style of comedy, was a hot favorite, and had to beg off with a speech. Variety. Palace Theater. Nicodemus stops the show with his speed. He really is a panic. Peggy Patton, Wisconsin News. Orpheum Theater. To those who knew and loved Burt Williams in the old days, Nicodemus, comedy dialoguist and shuffle dancer, will have a very strong appeal. Nicodemus has a good deal of that same sense of fine timing that made Williams great, Minneapolis star. Low Estate. As for specialties, Nicodemus grabs the applause with his characterization and droll humor. That's from Billboard. And the last one is Palace Theater in Akron. Heading the Calloway Show is Nicodemus. He has never failed to stop the show on his 3 or 4 appearances here. And this is Kenneth Nichols in Akron Times Press. And this is a reprint from Variety, October 1st, 1947.
Now, just for clarity for the audience, did your father was his stage name Nick Odemus? Was that
Yeah, his given name is Horace Winfred Stewart.
and he went by Nick Stewart, but his stage name was different than that. It was Nick Odemus, right? With Odemus as the last name?
The stage name was Nicodemus. His parents were immigrants from Barbados.
Right,
And
right.
his family was, his father and mother were followers of Marcus Garvey.
What caused your dad to want to get into theater in the first place?
He lived across the street, and it's in some articles, right directly across the street from the Cotton Club. And the Cotton Club was famous for presenting Black entertainers in Harlem. But Black people weren't allowed to sit in the chairs and look at the shows there. It was all white audiences and Black entertainers. And he used to, as a young man, go to the what they call it, the Hoofers Club, and that's where he learned to dance.
Mm-hmm.
And he started out as a dancer and comedian, and he was scared to go on stage, but he became brilliant.
I see. Well, so later in your dad's life, I think he became friends with another Disney voice actor. Is that correct?
Disney voice actor. Oh, Alan Young.
Yes, yes. Could you tell us a little bit about that friendship?
They were friends for many years. In fact, he did I could call Alan Young. I could call him. We did a little radio show. Friend of mine helped put together the show, and I called Alan. I said, Alan, do you mind doing something for me? And he said, okay. So he did the radio show with us, and I think it's still on at the KCAA radio website. I'd have to look for that. But they were friends. They were just good friends. He spoke at my dad's memorial when he passed away, and he was on the board of directors of the Ebony Showcase Theater. He helped to start the theater, and there's a photograph that I didn't show anybody. I didn't send it to you, of my mom, my dad, and Alan Young in the theater. Which reminds me, the first theater that they had, there's a picture somewhere of Eleanor Roosevelt's son and my parents. I forgot what his first name was, but there were some really kind of important people that would always come to the theater. Danny Kaye. My dad was in White Christmas, but they didn't list him in the credits. But we have a picture of my dad and Bing Crosby on the set of White Christmas. And Danny Kaye, Buddy Edson, who else? Fred Gwynn, Steve Allen, Jay Meadows, Robert Serling. I have pictures of those people at the theater. And in fact, Billy Crystal did much of Mr. Saturday Night. He's filmed some of it at the Ebony.
Mm-hmm. What was what were your dad's thoughts or your mother's thoughts? Maybe even your family, as a whole. What were the thoughts about race relations in the film industry and how that shifted from the time that your dad was on radio and playing in the Cotton Club versus later in life? How did that change?
Repeat that question, please.
How do you feel that race relations in the film industry shifted from the beginning of your dad's career going towards the later years of his career?
Well, they shifted. I don't know. They would hire Black people to do menial roles. I know that. And later they've always had to fight to get parts. There's not that much work for Black people. Even now, people are complaining that there's not enough work. There's still, in some situations, as far as I'm concerned, another stereotype sometimes,
Mm-hmm. But do you think your dad and his effort moved things forward in a positive direction?
He and my mother were the ones that started that, yes. Mm-hmm. And they're not getting credit for it. Yes.
Well, they are in this video, and I hope that thousands and thousands and thousands watch this. As I've said, I just don't see a way for people to watch and to listen to your stories and to believe some of the things that they have adopted. I think that you have a message that unites people and that is familial to people. And I just don't see how people could rejoice in forgetting about your parents. I don't see how that's even possible if they just listen to you for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you very much.
What do you think is your father's and your mother's legacy? What is their legacy, whether or not companies like Disney, groups in Hollywood, whether or not they respect that legacy, whether or not they do documentaries on that legacy, or if their agenda is to forget it? What is the legacy regardless of your parents?
The legacy is, my dad used to say, and we go back to my dad, he would say, you got to know who you are. He would wake me up and he would say, you got to know who you are. You got to know who you are.
Now, did he wake you up in the mornings, or did he wake you up in the middle of the night to say this? He would stand in
foot of my bed and say, you got to know who you are. And I didn't realize what it meant until we lost everything. When the city came in and tore down our theater and attacked us, just like Disney's doing. I've gone through this before. And this lies and making up things and printing things in the newspapers that weren't true, with the loss of the buildings, of the theater buildings. But he would also say, you don't need money. This is the craziest thing he'd say. He would say, all you need is a better idea. So they were very spiritual and very hardworking people. They would do things when there was no money, and they would make it happen. I remember once when we were having a rough time and we had hardly food or anything between acting jobs because they didn't get many. He would pray. He was a prayerful man. And one time he prayed and somebody brought us fish dinners. He was just positive and hardworking and didn't let anything stop him. The theater was a melting pot. There were all kinds of people in and out, Asian, Black, white, Latino. There was no racial divide, although his goal was to help Black people to get work. Didn't mean he didn't hire other people. So there were always all sorts of people around us. And, that's having that kind of a goal doesn't mean that you hate someone else that doesn't look like you. There's room for all of us together to work together. I just feel privileged that I am not a racist, and I don't like having the work of pioneers being misinterpreted as if they were part of a problem. They were part of the solution, and they were the solution.
Well, your parents were fighters, according to you. You are a fighter. And the great thing about being fighters is that when the truth is on your side, you cannot be defeated. And so no matter what, this story is going to get out there. And your parents' legacy is going to live on regardless. And I have to say that it's an honor to get to hear about your parents. And it's an honor to get to talk with you. And I can only imagine how happy your parents must be with you and with you continuing to fight, no matter what the people who want to divide wish to do. You just keep fighting. That's amazing.
Do I have 5 more minutes?
Oh, you've got 50 minutes. You do what you want, Valarie. I am here and having a good time.
I found, and it's tattered, but it says April 10th, 1955, and it was written to a radio station when we were trying to save the theater. And I don't want to go into that, but I'd like to read what was happening then. And this is the kind of place, just like Disney's doing, that the city went in and decided that they had enough of us. And
they had a better vision, according to them.
Yeah. Here, it says, we are celebrating the theater's 45th birthday. It's 1995. The theater was founded in 1950.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we are celebrating the theater's birthday, my father's 85th birthday, and his receivership of the LA Weekly newspaper's Career Achievement Award on April 3rd. September's my birthday. April 3rd, 1995. We're having a National Tap Day kickoff, surprise 85th birthday party, a tapathon for my father, who started his career as a hoofer, on Sunday, April 30th, 1955, which will be hosted by Fair Nicholas, the Nicholas brothers, and a host of other tap dancers. In addition, my mother and father just received notifications that they are being honored as living legends this summer at the National Black Theater Festival in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. We conduct year-round programs that address the needs of at-risk youth. We're part of the Washington and Locke High School Drug-Free School Zone project with the LA Unified School District. Students come here for training and activities, including a youth media forum that was televised for cable. And then I enclosed a letter from a teacher from Hamilton High School. We also provided an after-school latchkey program for children who without the program would have been home alone. We presently presented children's on tour from the University of California, Santa Cruz, South Central Theater Project, who performed here as part of their outreach activities. I'm going to stop reading that for a second. They received an award from the Drama Critics Circle Award for tenaciously serving their community. I don't know what year that was, but it's on the Drama Critics Circle website. Current projects include enrollment for classes, anti-gang, anti-violence activities, and seminars for at-risk children and teens from group homes, foster homes, and neighboring schools, and outreach and community meetings to create awareness and recruit potential new foster parents. We had screenings of independent documentary documentary films are scheduled, and will include The Fire Next Time, a documentary about the causes of the civil unrest in Los Angeles by Randy Holland, who also wrote episodes of Murder, She Wrote and Quantum Leap. We had a BBS that I ran called Humanity BBS. It was our own free to the public computer bulletin board services that received callers from all over the United States and the world and provided information files and a calendar of events, job notices, business information, internet, email. We had live performances of plays and concerts in the works. Outreach to writers, performers, and technicians is ongoing. We provide showcasing and performances. We provided a location for diverse activities such as the Black History Program and dinner in our restaurant for the National Black Coalition of Federal Aviation Employees, a dinner for the first African American ice skating company honoring Mabel Fairbanks, the Grand Dame of African American ice skating, a Spanish-speaking Alcoholic Anonymous conference, African meetings, Christmas shows presented and performed by our neighbors, willing workers, which was developmentally disabled adults, Rowan's Nursery School, and a few years ago, a Korean theater festival. We're here for the entire community. We experienced financial challenges lately. Our business was slowed down by the Northridge earthquake and our recent storms. We must raise $50,000 immediately to bring current our activities, space costs, additional staff, needed supplies, provide a slight cosmetic facelift to our lobby, restrooms, and exterior, and to provide stability and a bridge while we conduct enrollment and prepare for our summer activities and presentations. We will raise the needed money through ticket sales and from donations from corporations, businesses, and individuals. We also have a thrift shop and will resell or reuse any items that are donated to us. And then I talk about the items that we could use. Anyway, at that time, we received donations from Disney Studios, CBS, NCA Universal, Bill Cosby, Quincy Jones, Valerie Harper, and more. When Bill Cosby provided assistance to us, he stated in a letter to my father, "Nick, heaven only knows how many potential young people your showcase turned around. We are committed to continue our 45-year-old tradition of uplifting our community by providing education, artistic and cultural enrichment through entertainments, and providing quality projects and resources for the community." Anyway, the theater was demolished soon after that.
And that was my understanding, is that there was an earthquake.
They lied.
Yes. I know that is the facade of the story, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
But they used the earthquake, and then they used restrictions on buildings afterwards to give them some sort of cover in order to try to take it with eminent domain. Is that correct?
That's right. The buildings have been green tagged by the Army Corps of Engineers and the building department, but the CRA, the redevelopment agency, decided to make a fake report of earthquake damage, and they told the public that it was badly damaged in the earthquake.
And so your family has really been through it. I mean, let's just be honest. Your parents, they reached the heights of what was possible. And when you're talking about some of the people who were interacting with your parents, you're talking about the biggest of the biggest celebrities out there.
That's right. They were there.
And then, for whatever reason, governments and individuals and groups have, over the decades, in different domains, attempted to discredit and to tear down that which your parents built.
It's an example. We could not be the only people. That's what I try to tell people when they say, "Oh, I'm sorry it happened to you." They don't realize that it happened to them. That whoever did this, whatever they did, that's their MO. That's their practice. They didn't just single us out. I hope not, anyway. I think that other people may not have understood what was happening to them, but as fighters, we fought back. I did a lot of research. I did a lot of things to stop them, and I held them back for years. And
I don't think they can snuff you out. I don't think that they can. I don't think that they can snuff you out. I don't think you're a candle that can go out.
No, but the thing is, I mean, we had I don't know if you saw the picture, we had a linear block.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a print shop, a little studio, we had classrooms, we had places for actors to live, we had a restaurant, and they didn't like seeing that. My dad would say, "I'm doing this on my ability to earn," and he would be proud that he wasn't getting subsidies and financial assistance.
Right. That didn't make them happy, though, did it?
I guess it's an embarrassment. They said that we didn't know what we were doing.
Right.
Because we had a work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, I think, and I really do believe this, I'm not saying this to be pie in the sky, but I really do believe that one of the most, probably the most powerful thing in the world are good ideas. And they can't stop that. They can tear down your theater. They can take away the land with eminent domain. They can hide Song of the South. They can redo Splash Mountain, and they can put it into whatever new story they think is acceptable now. But they can't stop the ideas of your father and your mother.
No,
and they can't stop the message. And I think I think that probably the ideas and the inspiration that your parents give to the world, I just imagine it going out to communities that neither you or I even know about, but people who took inspiration from your dad, from your mom, and said, well, if they're willing to try, I can try.
Yeah, they did it by themselves. By themselves. In fact, my mom would be outside in front of the theater with paintbrush, and she'd paint the squares of the sidewalk black and white like a checkerboard.
Mm-hmm.
And she'd be crawling around on the ground doing that, and people would come there and look at her down there and say, where are the owners? So I'm going to get from CBS News. It's at the Library of Congress. There's a video. My dad in 1985 was the CBS hometown hero for a month.
Uh-huh.
And it's about a 3-minute short video showing him at work. So I'm going to try to get that. That's one of my goals. And
Thank you.
my other goal is to keep the work going, whether we have a building or not. But what's happening now in LA is the rents on the worst places that are horrible and in shambles are like $5,000, $6,000 a month.
Sure.
And the rents are so high that I haven't been able to afford the luxury of getting a proper place to work in every day. So we work here and there. But we are a nonprofit, 501c3. For those
So what year was your father born?
1910.
Well, you know, here we are in 2023, and the ideas of your father born in 1910 are still impacting people today. I can only imagine that everybody out in the audience right now has been listening to you, listening about your parents, and that's going to touch their lives. And so I hope that brings some solace that no matter what on the theater, and no matter the forces trying to hold you back as you fight to do good in this world on behalf of your parents and on behalf of the community around you, that people all over are listening to you. And
I hope so. I hope so.
deeply
They
impacted.
shouldn't give up. Oh, that's the other thing to everybody. Don't give up. We had a friend that took his own life because he gave up. You don't give up. Don't give up. Don't never. And don't believe everything you hear. I wanted to encourage people to go on the internet if they have it. No, everybody that hears us now, to go on the internet and look up logical fallacies and read them. And then when somebody tells you something, to hold it against whatever you're reading there and see whether it's true or not. And one of the things that they're believing, there's one I think called, what is it, faulty premise?
Mhm.
And they build on the premise, or is it a circular argument where they build on a premise and then support it with stuff that support a lie with more lies, but you believe in the lie in the first place and then you buy into it. Also, to ask people to read about, I think his first name was Edward Bernays, Freud's nephew, who was able to convince society almost to do things like, was it women to smoke? Was one of the things.
Well, that's called, I think that's the birth of marketing, right?
But he's like the father of that type of PR,
Mm-hmm.
where you're able to convince people, and Disney's using those methods right now.
Sure.
That's what they're doing. They're saying things that are not true, not accurate, and I think Disney. Oh, that's the other thing my dad would say. He would say, and it sounds kind of crude, but he'd say it all the time. He would say, they like dead names. And then he'd say that if the people that they're naming these things after would come back, they would be appalled.
Well, I hadn't thought of that. You pick somebody who's gone so they can't
They put the guy's name
hold
on
you
their
responsible.
project to make it appear that they're following in their footsteps and that
That's right.
and they're not sometimes. So you shouldn't be fooled by somebody's name. You've got to look at their deeds and their thought processes, and don't just think, which there's not a lot of thinking going on right now.
Look to the character of each person that you deal with, and remember that we're all God's babies, and you better treat every person
That's right.
with the kind of love and respect that they deserve.
Yeah. All right.
Well, Valarie, you are welcome anytime on this channel. You are you're a wealth of knowledge, and we just don't have enough people who have the type of knowledge you do. So anytime
thank
you'd
you
like to
very
come back,
much.
you're welcome.
I'll be working on something else that I'll share soon then. Thank you.
Well, before you go,
Appreciate it.
it's very important. Will you tell everybody where they need to go to support your work?
EbonyShowcase.org.
And is there a petition as well?
The petition, I'll put a link to the petition on the page.
Sure. And all of that's going to be in the description underneath the video, everybody. Excellent. So if everybody would, please go and support
all right, I'll send you
Valarie and everything she's doing. Excellent.
Please do. We need it so badly. The world is fighting this and fighting this. Can't see this, can't see that. History is bad. That's got to stop. So thank you very much.
Agreed. And thank you so much for being here. Everybody, if you would, please click that like button, click the share button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. In my opinion, this is one of the most meaningful videos we'll ever do. It doesn't matter how big this channel gets. It doesn't matter how many years we do this. This is one that matters. So send it out, share it, and let people hear the voice of Nick Stewart through his daughter, Valarie. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.